Our next speaker is going to be an old friend of mine, Magnus Toren.
So from London, from New York to London. But it's London in 1787, and London in 1787, I assure you, is a hellhole for most people. And at the time, the British Empire is growing, the wings are spreading all over the world, and the empire has a problem. They have slaves in the Caribbean, and they need to be fed. So, coincidentally, Captain Cook has come home from his journeys in the South Pacific and tells tales about trees in Tahiti that grows bread. Bread on trees, breadfruit trees. The Admiralty come up with the brilliant idea of sailing to Tahiti, pick those trees up, plant them in the Caribbean, problem solved. So they nominate Lieutenant William Bligh to take the ship the Bounty to Tahiti and execute the order. They sail away and they have the most arduous journey you can imagine. They almost lose the ship, men and all, more than twice. But finally they get to Tahiti. Again, imagine, these are hard-scrabble sailors that live in misery in London. They've gone through a miserable journey and now they sail into Tahiti. This is a turquoise lagoon, teeming with life. Hillside that are just lush, green, tropical hillside with water gushing down, fresh water, children playing on the shoreline, fruit and vegetables wherever you look, and women. Many of them shacked up with some of these sailors. So for 5 months, these people lived in paradise. And then Captain Bligh said, it's time to go home. Many of them thought, not a very good idea. But of course, they did. So they sailed home, but only 2 weeks into the journey home, Lieutenant Fletcher Christian does the capital crime of taking over the ship. It becomes the most famous mutiny in naval history, the Mutiny of the Bounty. He takes Captain Bligh and his loyal men, put him in a longboat, and off they go. They take the Bounty out to search for a place to hide. And most people know of this story through the films. 3 films, American films, are the most famous ones. The first was with Charles Laughton playing Captain Bligh against Clark Gable. And then the next one was Trevor Howard with Marlon Brando. And then the last one, Anthony Hopkins with Mel Gibson. They sail out, they find a little rock called Pitcairn Island. They settle there and they hide. They even burn the ship to make sure that they are hidden from the world. In 1808, almost 20 years later, an American whaler sails up to the island because he sees smoke from an island that shouldn't be inhabited. Out comes a canoe with 2 men in it, one with a hat and a feather, and he calls up to the captain of the ship, "Who are you?" And he goes, "We are Americans. Who are you?" "We are Englishmen." "And how can you be Englishmen if you come from that rock?" "Well, do you know Captain Bligh?" And he looks at the island and he knows that's where the mutineers are. And that's where I was. Almost exactly 200 years later, I sailed to Pitcairn Island, spent 2 weeks there, and during that time I was very lucky because a big ship came with supplies for the islanders, something that happened only between 4 and 6 months, into long intervals. So they had 3 beautiful open longboats, about 45 foot long, and they launched them into the sea, and off we went around the island. I was in one of them, and the big ship hove to the lee of the island. The little boats, we go to the lee of the ship like this, and the islanders go up the Jacob's ladder with all their arts and crafts and sell to the crew of the ship. Meanwhile, they unload tobacco and sugar and what else is there? Diesel, you know, important supplies, and also the mail for the islanders. We work on this for maybe 3 hours. At the time, it's getting dark, it's getting windy, and it's getting really windy. And 2 of the longboats are taking off, and the one that I'm in is the last one. And we're being taken off, and I'll never forget the sight of this ship. Its name was Stolt Sincerity, and I saw the stern of this ship just disappear into the darkness. And there we are, in an open boat, with wind increasing, feeling extremely vulnerable and lonely, because we can't even see the other longboats. They're gone. All I can see as we turn the bow into the wind is this shadow way up there, which is Pitcairn, where we are going. And as soon as we start powering into the waves, a big wave crashes over the boat. And Len Brown, who is running the diesel engine, he can look down into the bilge. He says, bail for life. So 14 of us are bailing with anything we have, as much as we can. And he says, we're not gaining. So Steve Christian, straight descendant from Fletcher Christian, the mutineer himself, says to me and to the others, we're dumping the diesel. So we take these 55-gallon drums and we lift them over the railing and dump them 1 and 2 and 3, and after we've dumped 5 of them. And once we've dumped 5 diesel drums, Len Brown calls out and says, we're gaining. And as you know, I'm telling the story, we did manage to get in under lee of land and survive this extraordinarily dangerous situation. I have spent 7 years sailing the 5 of the 7 oceans, and I have never been so close to feeling like I'm getting down in what we call the Davy Jones locker. And I always thought about my mom and dad sitting in their beautiful apartment in Gothenburg, hearing about their son having drowned in the South Pacific with the mutineers of the Bounty. But, things change. And I am now working at the Henry Miller Memorial Library in Big Sur. And I'm calling to my friend and I said to him, Eric, if Anthony Hopkins ever shows up at the library, would you mind letting me know? And about a year later, Eric comes into my office and he says, guess who was just here? I said, I don't know, Anthony Hopkins. And I said, Eric, you are fired. Fortunately for Eric and for me, Sir Anthony comes back the next day. So I get to sit with Sir Anthony Hopkins for over an hour. He and I really hit it off because we are both what's known as bounty files, right? We love this story. And so we had all kinds of things. And he, of course, talked about the virtue and the plus and the minuses of the various films and so on. So the next day he comes back, so time of my life. 2 months later or so, I look up the New Yorker magazine. And in the New Yorker magazine is a portrait of Anthony Hopkins. And in it he says, if you ever go to Big Sur, make sure you visit a most wonderful place called the Henry Miller Memorial Library.